defensively, and obviously swung the bat very, very well when it mattered most, when people were out there. And they're very, very good offensively, obviously, and we just weren't able to keep up after that.
I think we're definitely a team that you have to look at and strongly consider to give a host spot to.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back into Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Mayhem continues in college baseball on what is now a bright and sunny day here in Hoover, Alabama. Rain was a part of the day early on. In fact, it rained on the Gamecocks and Kentucky during their game, not enough to stop play. And now we have a beautiful afternoon. LSU and Missouri playing in their game, with Missouri up on top of LSU thanks to a homer in the second. Missouri leading LSU 1-0 as they go to the top of the third. By now, the Gamecocks lost to Kentucky. Now they're in double elimination, so it's not over. They lose to Kentucky today 7-2. So they move on into the losers bracket to play tomorrow afternoon at around 2 o'clock Eastern time against the loser of this game. And so there's still hope for the Gamecocks, trying to put a little bit of a positive view on this thing, and it's sort of playing out like I thought it would after beating Vanderbilt. Did not think they'd beat Vanderbilt, of course, but they played well and got it done. Had a feeling today would be tough against Kentucky, and it was. The Gamecocks missed some opportunities, did not play well in the field, and of course Kentucky eventually can wear you down with their great hitting, and that happened today. But now you go to Thursday, and the pitching is in order for the Gamecocks guys. They get back to the top of their order in terms of the pitching lineup, with Will Crow set to go tomorrow. They did not have to use their top three relievers today, who all pitched yesterday. So they've got some rest, should all be ready to go tomorrow if needed. And should you win tomorrow, you'll have Adam Hill fully rested to go on Friday. And so I'm sure in Chad Holbrook's mind, as disappointed as he is about losing today, he's still optimistic knowing he's got Crow in a rested bullpen that he can run out there tomorrow against either LSU or Missouri and try and get that second win here in the SEC tournament and stay alive.
Well, it seemed like they had chances to steal this one. But when you give a good hitting team like Kentucky 4 and 5 out innings, that's not going to happen. And their fielding really left them to Dacorn, because I thought they held pretty good. I would have thought at the beginning of the day, I wouldn't have been surprised if Kentucky wouldn't have scored double digits in runs with the pitching South Carolina had to go with. So as far as the pitching is concerned, I think for the most part they overachieved if they just would have had a little help from the gloves.
Yeah. K-Mac, I know you follow along the comments on Twitter, as do I, when covering an event. It's just amazing to me, the people who are anti-Chad Holbrook so quick to jump on anything that happens in a baseball game. Yes, T.J. Hopkins decided to bunt in the first inning with a runner on first, and people were jumping all over Chad Holbrook about it. And as it turns out, Hopkins was bunting on his own volition there, trying to advance a runner. Their thinking was get some early runs. If they can build an early lead, that would affect how they would use their bullpen, which they were effectively using today, again, with Cody Morris starting. And they were hoping to build some early runs and a little bit of an early cushion there. And also you try to stay out of a double play, which he eventually hit into. He didn't put the bunt down, and he eventually hit into a double play. But the point is top of the first inning, and people already jumping to the wrong conclusion in this case, as far as wanting to blame Holbrook for a decision a player made.
Well, I'll say this. I don't like that decision, whoever made it, T.J. Hopkins in the first inning in a game against a Kentucky team that is going to score a lot of runs. I understand the mentality behind that, but you want to play for a big inning there, and you get your leadoff man on. Hopefully you can handle the bat well enough to advance him over or get on base and really threaten in the first inning. But I don't disagree that people are so reactionary and it's so toxic, and it's been this way for a while. And I'm not blaming fans for South Carolina's disappointing season. I'm not. It comes down to players making plays and coaches putting players in position to make those plays. But it's just it's comical. And it didn't just start this season. There are people today knocking last year's team, talking about how this team hasn't won a major series in 2 seasons. Last year's team went to a super regional. They were one of the last 16 teams in the country playing college baseball. You don't just stumble into a super regional. You don't win a regional. They won enough games last year to host a regional. They won that regional and advanced to a super regional. That's not easy to do. And if we're going to start poo-pooing super regional appearances at South Carolina, then then check yourself, because you're going to be disappointed about every other year. And you look at Clemson, and Clemson lost again last night. Clemson has lost 10 of 11 games against ACC opponents. As bad as this season's been for Chad Holbrook, and this isn't a knock on Monty Lee, this is a point made for perspective. South Carolina never had a stretch that bad. I mean, they would never lost. They would lose 1 out of every 3, but they were winning a couple in there in between. Clemson is on a downward spiral as well, and they're on the cusp of perhaps playing themselves out of a regional hosting spot. Yeah. It's a tough game. I mean, baseball is a process game, and when it goes bad, it can go really bad. TJ Hopkins, he's one of the many guys that have been playing hurt this year. I know Tolbert has a knee injury. He's been playing through a thumb injury. It's well documented, and these aren't excuses. They're facts, and it's just gotten away from them. But Corn, you see them. They're still out there battling, and I don't think it's all happening because Chad Holbrook is clueless. He's not clueless.
No. Man, I hear people saying, the big inning. But you know what? The book says, and of course, Holbrook didn't put the bunt on, but Hopkins, you have to ask him, and he wasn't available to the media afterwards. Maybe he saw the third baseman playing back. Maybe he thought he could beat out the bunt at that particular time. Maybe he was hoping to stay out of the double play by putting down a bunt and getting the runner to second base with nobody, with one man out if he sacrificed. As it turned out, he hit into a double play. So you can criticize and second guess his decision to bunt, but it turned out the attempt, even though he didn't get it down, would have been better than what he ended up doing, which was hit into a double play. And so, it's just been that kind of year for South Carolina. They didn't play good baseball in the field today. They had 4 errors that led to a couple of runs. It led to extra at-bats for Kentucky, things of that nature. One in particular early helped lead to the Kentucky 3-run inning that turned the game around for them. So in South Carolina, you have to point out, and we're not making excuses for anybody, but the fact is they're playing without their starting catcher. Their first base situation, remains a revolving door, even though Hogan is starting to settle in and had 3 hits today. But he did make an early throwing error. The shortstop is hurting. The regular shortstop is out. The second baseman's playing shortstop, and he's hurting. The center fielder is hurting with an injury. It's just been a combination of things all year long. And to be quite honest with you, to win as much as they've won and avoid being swept in these series and to be still hanging around is more of a tribute to them than anything else at this particular time. I know the haters of Holbrook out there don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear anything positive about what he's trying to do and what he's able to do. But holding this thing together with a patchwork lineup that he's having to play with right now is really more of a credit to him than a criticism. And that's the way people should look at it. And I think at the end of the day, Ray Tanner is going to look at it that way.
Well, that's the key point I was trying to say about a toxic situation when you have fans that you feel are sitting at home or maybe even sitting in the stadium rooting against their own coach so they can get rid of it. I think that's a sad situation.
It is. It's just ridiculous. And all these people who claim to know baseball, they don't know as much baseball as they think they know. If they think just firing a guy is going to fix everything, and starting over with somebody new is just going to be the magical potion to this particular season. It's this season and this season alone that you have to think about. We'll be right back.
It was a good, simple as that. And his left-handed pitcher out there with LT Bunton, the 3-run double that Evan White had.
We'll take this one right here and then one on the back.
Chad, I asked you this a couple of weeks back, but a couple of
The back.
Chad, I asked you this a couple of weeks back.
Important is the 3-run double that Evan White had. TJ Hopkins bunted on his own, and the other bunt was LT Tolbert, and LT can't move. He's got torn cartilage in his knee. I mean, it's as simple as that. And his left-handed pitcher out there with LT Bunton too, and he couldn't move very well. So I was just playing the numbers and playing the odds on that bunt play, and didn't work out for us because we didn't. Olsen or Hunter couldn't get a big hit behind him. It was a good game there through 6 innings and tight game, and we need to play better. I mean, I'm not disappointed in our kids' effort. Maybe we can advance, and that's just going to be the mindset.
I said Kings in the building. Tell me how you feeling. Yeah, I said the Kings in the building. Tell me how you feeling.
That's the official Corn walk-up song when he is going to the plate to deliver a home run. Some might say the plate to load up with food. I'm talking about home plate, baby. I'm talking about going up there swinging for the fences. Back here in Hoover, LSU, Missouri, still 1-0 Missouri. And we are in the third inning here at Hoover. We'll update other scores for you in just a little bit. But let's recap USC 7-2 loss to Kentucky and then hear from Chad Holbrook. Gamecocks jumped out to the 2-0 lead. Could have had a little more in the first inning, as we talked about the Hopkins situation, but a double play there pretty much derailed that threat. Gamecocks had runners on in the second as well. Destino and Bride, back-to-back singles, but they could not take advantage of it. Tolbert grounded out to third base on a sacrifice, and that advanced the runners to second and third with one out. And you've got Olsen and Taylor coming up. I mean, that's what you again, I mean, that's by the book baseball, is it not? First and second, nobody out. You bunt them over. Second and third, one out, and your guys just didn't deliver. Pop up to first, pop up to second. Into the inning. So the Gamecocks go to the third. They finally get on the board. Destino with a sacrifice fly gets one run home, and then Bride doubled to left, got a second run home. Could have been a bigger inning. Tolbert hit a really hard-hit ground ball to the third baseman, made a nice play to end the inning. If that ball gets past, they score a couple of more. But they didn't. It's 2-0. Kentucky comes back and ties the game in the second to make it to 2-2. This is off of Morris. We go to the fourth. Solo homer by Cottom puts Kentucky up for good at that point, 3-2. Stayed that way until the sixth when Kentucky got a bases-loaded double by their outstanding hitter, White, who's hitting just under 400. He clears the bases, and that, for all intents and purposes, put the game away. 6-2 then. They add a run in the seventh, unearned, to make it 7-2, and Kentucky wins it. And here's Chad Holbrook talking about the defeat. This is post-game audio exclusive to radio in South Carolina on Sports Talk. Here's Chad Holbrook.
It was a good game there through 6 innings and tight game, and I guess through 5 innings. And, the White kid is a really good hitter. Put the biggest swing of the bat during the game and cleared the bases there and kind of gave them some room and allowed them to breathe a little bit easier. We got all we asked out of Cody Morris, our starter. Hadn't been in a situation like that in a start against an SEC team. He kept us in the game. I think it was a big turning point for us is we almost had it exactly like we wanted it when we were up 2-0 there, and second and third and 2 outs, and LT had a great at bat, and the kid, Becker made a great play in the hole over there at third base, and it could have easily been 4-0, and it was differently at that point. But got to give credit to Kentucky. They made some great plays defensively, and obviously swung the bat very, very well when it mattered most, when people were out there, and they're very, very good offensively, obviously, and we just weren't able to keep up after that.
On the pitch to White for the bases clearing double, what was called? Where did it miss? Just what happened?
It was just a fastball on the outer half of the plate, and he did what good hitters do. He didn't miss it. He didn't do too much. Didn't try to do too much. Used the whole field and drove it in the opposite field gap there. This is a really good swing by a really good player, and obviously it made a huge difference in the game.
You're back to a must-win situation again. So what do you try to draw from yesterday to try to get your team to recapture what you had yesterday?
Well, we need to play better. I mean, I'm not disappointed in our kids' effort. We've been a pretty good defensive team all year, and obviously you're not going to beat Kentucky when you make 4 errors. And so we gotta make sure we make the other team earn what they get. And Kentucky, you can't give them free chances. You can't give them free 90s. You can't walk them. They keep coming at you offensively, and we opened the door for them a little bit there. We gave them their second run. We couldn't keep the ball in the infield there on a ground ball in the 4-hole. Rowe couldn't keep in the infield, and they made us pay for that one. And then obviously, we set the table for them there in the 6th before the 3-run double. So we just got to play better defense to give ourselves a chance tomorrow. We get our rotation back, and I'm sure we'll throw tomorrow. And if we're lucky enough to win tomorrow, Adam will go the next day, and it's our hope and our goal to stay here a few more days, and just got to take it one game at a time. We came in here with that mindset, one game at a time. Very rarely does anybody sweep through this tournament. The teams are too good, and didn't have to extend too much of our bullpen today. So we're going to go into tomorrow with optimism. We got one of our best pitchers on the mound, have some bullpen help, and we play defense and get some timely hits. Maybe we can advance, and that's just going to be the mindset.
Coach, I mean, you asked earlier about when John was saying you've been in this situation last year. You have a pretty young team, and what are you going to take away not only from today, but doing still comments on your team one more day? I mean, to keep going forward. I mean, they did play a great game. You were tied with them. You said the first 2 innings yourself, but when you look at the fact you have a young team, 2 of which haven't even played this position before, what are some things you're going to say to them tonight to just keep it positive?
Well, we just, we were in this situation yesterday, and we it didn't look so good at a few points yesterday's game, and we just got to keep playing. We have a pitcher on the mound that can stuff anybody, and we're going to need a good deep outing out of him. And obviously, we need to play better defense to give ourselves a chance. But when we get the chances to extend the lead, we have to take advantage of it. And we had that chance today, up 2-0 in second, third, and 2 outs, and we put a good swing. We were a foot away here or there from being up 4-0, and then we were going to change a few things about our bullpen. But you got to make it happen, and Kentucky made the play, and you have to give them credit for that. You can't just say it was tough luck. LT squared it up. The kid made a great play, and that play was every bit as important as the 3-run double that Evan White had.
We'll take this one right here and then one was the back.
Chad, I asked you this a couple of weeks back, but a couple of bunt opportunities in the first couple of innings. What went into those decisions, and does it get to a point where y'all kind of quit doing?
TJ Hopkins bunted on his own, and the other bunt was LT Tolbert, and LT can't move. He's got torn cartilage in his knee, and stay out of a double play there. And LT does hit a few ground balls, and he's struggling with his mobility, and we just felt that was the best opportunity to try to get a lead. We were trying to get a lead of 2, 3, 4-0, and if we could, and we had that opportunity there, we were going to turn it over to Bowers a lot earlier. But you got to give credit to Becker. He made a great play when we had that opportunity, but that was just a situation in which we just wanted to get a lead. And had a left-handed pitcher on the mound and some right-handed hitters coming up, we got to be able to execute to get those run home. I mean, it's as simple as that. And there's a left-handed pitcher out there with LT bunting too, and he couldn't move very well. So I was just playing the numbers and playing the odds on that bunt play, and didn't work out for us because we didn't. Olsen or Hunter couldn't get a big hit behind him.
All right, comments of Chad Holbrook after the Gamecocks 7-2 loss to Kentucky. And, the little things that you do or don't do in a baseball game make all the difference, as you heard him say, about getting the bunt down, about advancing the runners, about your big middle-of-the-order hitters coming through, about your second baseman getting to a ground ball. He had to go to his left, and he reached for the ball, and it kind of skipped past him there. And I think it was kind of a tough error to take, but they gave him an error on it in that third inning where the Wildcats tied the game, made that an unearned run. And then they went on from there. But, South Carolina also only had 3 singles, I think it was, 3 singles from the fourth inning on. So they were facing a couple of Kentucky relievers. Kentucky did not go with a regular starter in this one, opting to give their rotation another day of rest. They went with their bullpen, and those guys were terrific. And after the third inning, the Gamecocks were kept off the board, and like I said, hardly got any hits against them. So those little things early on when the Gamecocks could possibly have taken advantage and built a lead changed everything. All right, we'll be back. Going to hear from Monty Lee. Gary Gilmore of Coastal Carolina will join us later on. We'll update the other baseball scores, and we'll take your calls as well. We'll be back from Hoover and Columbia in a moment. All right, here in Hoover, LSU has turned things around, a 4-run third inning, and the Tigers are up on the Tigers of Mizzou 4-1. And let's update some other scores for you. And, of course, the weather a factor again in South Carolina in particular. It's gone final in Louisville. Florida State with a go-homer and beats Notre Dame. Was that
Walk-off.
12 or 13 innings?
It's a walk-off.
That was 12.
We
Was
call
it
that
12
a
innings?
walk-off.
Whatever. I call it a go-homer because it does send you home. So a win by Florida State there. That's the first game of the day completed at the ACC tournament. The Big South, the rain in the Columbia Midlands area, and it washed out play again today at the Lexington County Baseball Stadium. So they're going to crank it up at 9:30 tomorrow, and the tournament will remain a double elimination tournament. So this thing could be going on in the next week. Liberty Gardner-Webb at 9:30, PC and UNC Asheville to follow, Winthrop and Campbell after that, and then High Point and Radford after that. Southern Conference tournament up in Greenville. Furman beat Wofford in 7 innings, 13-5. Mercer beat VMI. Mercer, the number 1 seed, beat VMI 11-6. Western Carolina and East Tennessee State coming up. Tomorrow, this is at Fluor Field, by the way, Greensboro and Sanford at 9. Wofford VMI at 12:30. And loser of Game 4, loser of Game 5 at 4. Furman and Mercer playing Game 8 at 7:30. And let's see, that's all I've got. Am I missing anything in state? I think that's everything at this point in time. Notre Dame and Florida State is over, and Florida State wins it. And Florida State, of course, with that weird pod play, that pool play they have in the ACC tournament, Florida State stays alive for a chance to make it to the weekend. We talked about Clemson earlier, and the loss last night to Duke eliminates the Tigers from championship consideration out of their pool. They've got one more game to play on Friday morning against Virginia, and regardless of what they do, they're not going to advance. So that'll be it for them. And Monty Lee today, as the Tigers were out at practice in Louisville, got together with the media there, including David Hood of TigerNet, who is covering the Tigers for us at the tournament in Louisville. And here is what Monty had to say to the media about the loss last night, getting over that, and trying to trying to do whatever they can to win on Friday and improve what they're standing for the upcoming NCAA tournament.
Well, we haven't necessarily discussed that as of today, but I would anticipate a starting Crawl. He's going to be our best available guy, but I would anticipate starting Pat Crawl and then being able to use Alex again out of the pen if needed, along with having a fresh bullpen.
This format that you guys have at the ACC, can you talk about how crazy it is that, you guys are already eliminated, but you still got a game to play and you got to wait 2 days to play it?
Yeah, I'm new to the league. So when we have these conference calls and we have these coaches meetings, I try to listen and not say a whole lot, out of respect to the guys that have been around the league a lot longer than me. But I can't quite figure this thing out. And it is a little perplexing when you play on a Tuesday and then you can't play again until Friday, and I deal with that. I've always been the kind of guy that just says, hey, here's the schedule and let's just go play. Whatever the schedule is, we're not going to worry about it. I'm not going to, it's not going to bother me, or I don't complain. I'm not a complainer. And I tell the players the same thing. If they tell us we're playing at 10 a.m., 2 o'clock, 7 o'clock, whatever it is, let's just go play a game. But it is it's a little different. And I'm sure that once, this tournament is over, I'm sure we'll look at it as a league and see, is this definitely something we want to continue to do, or are there some changes or maybe some little tweaks that need to be made? But I think that's obviously something that we discuss as coaches and as a league, after the conference tournament is over.
more from him from Louisville coming up. Baseball America came out with its projection today for the tournament, the field of 64. Clemson still down as a host with Mississippi State, Maryland, and Tennessee Tech. That's a pretty nasty regional right there.
Mm-hmm.
Mississippi State, Maryland's pretty good. Don't know much about Tennessee Tech. That would not be a walkover by any means for Clemson, even hosting that regional. And the question, of course, is if they lose to Virginia on Friday, will that come back and knock the Tigers out of hosting a regional? Are they that much in danger from that standpoint of being a regional host?
There's a possibility. And as I said before, I think it was just a quirky schedule for them. If they would have dropped the games they have dropped, but you had those big teams sprinkled out throughout the season, I don't think we'd be having that conversation. But with this roll of 11 losses out of the last 12 in conference play, that's a definite possibility if they do not get it done on Friday.
Well, Mississippi State beat Georgia today. I should have mentioned that. They beat Georgia in the first game of the day here, 3-0. And, if you just go by Baseball America, they've got Mississippi State as playing at Clemson. If Mississippi State were to make a deep run here and Clemson lose to Virginia, knowing that Mississippi State can pack in 20,000 people at their ballpark, I'm just looking down the list of teams here who aren't considered for hosts right now who might pop up and get that host spot if Clemson were to play its way out of it. And I'm wondering if maybe Mississippi State might be that team if they make a deep run here at the SEC tournament. We'll have to just wait and see how things play out and what happens on Monday when the field is announced. But certainly a disappointing run for Clemson at this particular time. We'll see if the Tigers can turn it around on Friday. Meantime, let's hit the phones, 800-956-7266. And we're going to go to, Craig in Anderson. Up with us here.
Aiken.
In Aiken. Craig in Aiken. All right, let's get this right. Craig in Aiken, welcome into Sports Talk. How are you?
Hey, doing good. Hey, I'd just like to make a comment regarding the Holbrook. Just want to say a couple things here. I disagree with y'all defending Holbrook personally. I think Shaq continues to lower expectations of Carolina. I mean, missing the tournament 2 out of 3 years is unacceptable, and Tanner knows it. Shaq comes back. What are the expectations? What changes are made? What assistants go? Mm-hmm. I mean, does he get the rebuilding excuse next year? I mean, where does it end? I mean, Tanner's in danger of losing the fan base if he retains Holbrook. That's just my opinion.
Yeah. If there is no change, you look at have coming back from this year's team, and of course they're losing Schmidt, they're losing Crow. Adam Hill would be the number one starter based off of this year. You just have to count on your recruiting the last couple of years. You got to feel like your everyday players are going to stay healthy and play better next year. You just have to feel that way if you're South Carolina. You'll have to replace your third baseman, have to replace your shortstop. There'll be various spots out there. Got to solve. Well, I guess Hogan probably solves the first base spot for him. I mean, he's been pretty good for the most part as a freshman. And you just have to hope that your incoming class is a very good one. You retain the top players in that class, and they give you a lift. And that's all I can tell you. K-Mac, you got any other spin you can put on it? I can't.
Yeah,
that's how you have to look at it.
And nobody's accepting that 2 out of 3 years missing the postseason is acceptable. Now, college baseball, people need to understand that even from the run that South Carolina had, in 2010, 11, and 12, the game's changed a lot over the past 5 years. More schools are investing in their baseball programs. Schools like Coastal Carolina are investing and competing on a higher level now. So it's tougher than it was even 5 years ago, but that's not an excuse. The expectation remains the same. The question is, can Chad Holbrook have success at South Carolina as the baseball coach and lead them to the World Series? Yes, he can.
Okay, there have been 2 baseball coaching jobs in the SEC to come open today. One you probably heard about. The coach at Alabama was fired. One you haven't heard about yet. LSU's going to fire Paul Maneri probably in the next inning, K-Mac, because he had a guy put down a bunt.
Oh,
he ordered a bunt.
Never bunt. Hit a dinger instead.
And he bunted back to the pitcher who got a double play. He threw the guy out at second, and they got the buntee or the bunter at first. I think that's a fireable offense.
Bring Skip Bertman back. Yeah, he played gorilla ball. He would have hit a 3-run homer there. That's what you do. Everybody knows that you never bunt, ever.
Oh, and to compound the problem, is that going to be an error on the LSU shortstop or throwing it past the first baseman? You mean LSU makes errors? Actually, I think they might give him an infield hit. But anyway, the point is, it's baseball. You follow enough baseball, you listen to it, you watch it. You can't explain it. It's really the one sport that just can't be explained. Why certain things happen, why you get certain breaks. Hey, it's a sport where if you're good a third of the time, you're considered a great player. All right. Imagine if you're a basketball player shooting 30% from the floor. You think that's going to get you a $10 million contract?
Unless you're doing it from 3 and you don't want to do that too often.
Yeah, I guess. But anyway, the point is coaches coach, players have to execute. Sometimes a good idea is poorly executed, and that's what you had here last inning for LSU. More from Monty Lee. And we were talking about the Tigers and their struggles. As K-Mac pointed out, what is it? How many lost ACC games here?
10 out of 11.
I think it's 11 out of 12.
Is it 11 out of 12 now? Depends on where you start counting.
If you count the tournament.
Yeah, if you do count.
Well, you got to count it.
Yeah, you got to count it. Yeah, they might need a W against Virginia on Friday. And by the way, we can all agree that this is the worst possible format of any tournament in the history of sports.
Yes.
Yeah, it's flat out stupid. It's just flat out stupid. Anywho, here is Monty Lee from meeting with the media today, talking about hosting and how he feels about the Tigers' chances to do just that.
Well, I think if you look at our overall body of work, I mean, we've been, I think today we're number 10 in the RPI, which if you, in our league, I think that's third best in our league behind Louisville and North Carolina. So, we're one of the top RPI conferences in the country, and we're number 3 in the RPI in our league. We have series wins against Virginia and Wake Forest, who are both in as well. So we've got 39 regular season wins. I think we're definitely a team that you have to look at and strongly consider to give a host spot to. That being said, we don't make those decisions. But I think if you look at our overall body of work, and I know Brian's got a lot better, list as far as our accolades for this year and resume as far as why we should be a host site. But I think overall, I mean, we were ranked in the top 10 for, if I'm not mistaken, 8 or 9 weeks, 10 weeks so the team has done a lot of really good things. But we obviously, going into Friday need to play good baseball against Virginia. And, if we can do that and find a way to win that ball game, that puts us at 40 wins as well. All those factors matter.
This team also learns going forward of why it's so you got to be consistent on here.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's I think we all know that. I don't think that's something that you learn. I mean, I think we knew that from the very beginning, and we've known, kind of what's at stake throughout the whole process of the good and the bad, the good times and the tough times. We understood when we were playing really, really well that we have to continue to play really, really well to hold on to the opportunity to host a regional, and we got to continue to play good baseball. And when we've struggled, as we have here over the last few weeks, we understand what's at stake too. So it's not like it's new news, to our players, or to me. It's not something that I talk to the team a whole lot about, though. I don't think that, putting that kind of pressure on our players is something that necessarily works. But Obviously I'm aware of it. I look at it every day. WarrenNolan.com is, one of the most viewed sites on my phone. So I look at the RPI every single day, and I understand what it takes to host and put ourselves in that position. I understand all of that. And we just try to be as consistent as we can with our team. I think that's the big thing, as a coach. I think your messages have to be consistent. The process of showing up every day and working hard with your players, it's got to be consistent. And I think if you ask our players, if there's one person that definitely 100% has their back when they're going through tough times, it's me.
Yeah, I'd like to meet Warren Nolan one day. Is that really a person or just, WarrenNolan.com? That's where I go to get my RPI for baseball and basketball as well. Very good site. But is there a person named Warren Nolan? Anybody know that? Anybody ever met
I'm
Warren
gonna
Nolan?
just venture a guess that there is a person named Warren Nolan out there.
Yeah. Okay. Monty Lee talking about the Tigers and their resume, and certainly won't hurt them to get a win against Virginia. I think a win over Virginia would seal that regional host site. Should they lose, it might very well be a question mark depending on what else goes on this weekend in the tournaments. To recruiting now. And, of course, the big news today, the announcement by Mark Allstork, the 6'5" Wright State graduate transfer, about his plans. He announced that he is going to Illinois to play his final season of college baseball. I'm sorry, where am I? College basketball. Play his final season of college basketball for Brad Underwood at Illinois, choosing the Illini over USC, Pittsburgh, and LSU. So that is done. Clemson coach Brad Brownell offered 2019 center Malcolm Wilson from Ridgeview. South Carolina State and Hampton also have offered him. USC, Georgia Tech, and Virginia are showing him some interest as well. To football, linebacker Azeez Ojulari of Marietta, Georgia, has a wide range of offers, including Clemson, USC, Georgia Tech, NC State, Oklahoma, Wake Forest, Maryland, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Alabama, Georgia, Michigan State, TCU, North Carolina, Mississippi State, Pitt, and others. He said Clemson and USC have been consistent in their approach to him and strong with their interests. He said he hears from Clemson like every other day, every week. They're recruiting him hard. He's in touch with Brent Venables and Todd Bates, and they're telling him how he could be a big impact in the program. He visited Clemson for spring practice. He also went to USC for a junior day. USC also was in to see him this spring. Outside linebackers coach Mike Peterson putting his eyes on him, and he likes South Carolina. They like him for the buck position. And he likes the fact that Will Muschamp coached Dante Fowler, and he thinks they're going to be good. And he said that they are rebuilding and making a move. And so he has interest in South Carolina as well. He has not narrowed his list any further. USC offered defensive back Chandler Jones of Miami. He also has offers from Mississippi State, Louisville, Rutgers, Appalachian State, Colorado State, Utah, Middle Tennessee State, and others. He's been in touch with USC recruiter Travaris Robinson. They like him as a corner, and he likes USC. He likes the fact that it's in the SEC. Plans to visit USC this summer, and during the season, he'll be an early graduate. USC offered 2019 running back Darian Brown of Buford, Georgia, and 2019 linebacker Adarius G. of Cordele, Georgia. And USC commitment running back Deshaun Fenwick of Bradenton, Florida, plans to enroll in January. And Taylor Upshaw, Clemson target, announced his top 10 late this afternoon. It's Clemson, Pittsburgh, Ole Miss, Oregon, NC State, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Louisville, Vanderbilt, and Tennessee. And athlete R.J. Roderick of Cane Bay was offered today by North Carolina. And Burns receiver DeMarcus Gregory will announce on Sunday afternoon Ole Miss, Tennessee, NC State, and Florida for him. It's the top of the hour. We'll be back. All right, coming down in 3, 2, 1. Hang on a second. Oh, I think we got a lightning delay, rain delay here. People are leaving. Not good. Coming down in 3, 2, 1. USC missed out on 6'5" Wright State graduate transfer shooting guard Mark Allstork on Wednesday when he announced that he will enroll at Illinois for his final season. Clemson basketball coach Brad Brownell offered 6'10" center Malcolm Wilson of Ridgeview. In football, linebacker Azeez Ojulari of Marietta, Georgia, has offers from Clemson and USC, and he is interested in both. Some other offers include Georgia Tech, NC State, Oklahoma, Tennessee, Notre Dame, Alabama, and Georgia. USC offered defensive back Chandler Jones of Miami. Burns receiver DeMarcus Gregory announces on Sunday for Ole Miss, Tennessee, NC State, or Florida. Oh, shoot. And let's see if I can get this in as well. Pick it up here. 3, 2, 1. Athlete R.J. Roderick of Cane Bay was offered by North Carolina, and Clemson's in the top 10 with defensive end Taylor Upshaw of Bradenton, Florida. Phil Kornblut, South Carolina, Radio Network Sports. God, my typing is just terrible. Down in 3, 2. Announces on Sunday for Ole Miss, Tennessee, NC State, or Florida. Oh, shoot. Athlete R.J. Roderick of Cane Bay was offered by North Carolina, and Clemson's in the top 10 with defensive end
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Welcome back to Sports Talk, everyone. Phil Kornbluth here in Hoover, Alabama. The SEC tournament, things have come to a halt because of a downpour. And it's been raining here about the last 10 minutes or so. They stopped the game with LSU leading 5-1 in the fifth inning. And there is one out. But it came down in buckets there for a little while. Now it's letting up a little bit, but it's a steady downpour at this particular point in time. And I think there was some lightning in the mix as well, so that's going to back things up here in Hoover for who knows how long, as rain has just been a big problem for tournaments all over the Southeast. The ACC tournament, they got one game in already. Florida State over Notre Dame with a go-homer in the bottom of the 12th, 5-3. The Seminoles win it.
Walk off.
North Carolina and Boston College coming up, and Wake Forest and Georgia Tech after that. So you're up to date with SEC and SEC play to this point. Couple of other notes to pass along. USC women's basketball assistant Nikki McCray-Pinson indeed was named the new head coach at Old Dominion today. She becomes the 7th head coach of the Old Dominion women's program, which used to be the class of the country way back when. And for McCray-Pinson, 11-year pro career, 2 Olympic gold medals, Women's Basketball Hall of Fame induction. Yeah, she's one of the great players in women's basketball history. And now she breaks away from Dawn Staley. You wonder where Dawn Staley will look for a replacement. Our buddy Jimmy Coggins, WKDK in Newberry, wants us to tell everybody that the Newberry men's golf team finished medal play in 6th position today in the Division II tournament and moves on to match play quarterfinals on Thursday morning. Carlos Leandro finished the individual competition at +3. That's a tie for 10th. So congratulations there to the Newberry folks, and good luck with all that. We're going to hear from Gary Gilmore coming up at the bottom of the hour, coach at Coastal Carolina. Everything in the Sun Belt got rained out today as well. And so they are going to go to strictly single elimination starting tomorrow.
Whoa.
Georgia State and Arkansas State, Little Rock and Texas State. That's in the afternoon, 3 and 6:30. And then the Coastal is set to play tomorrow. I'm sorry, not until Friday. They don't play until Friday at 4 o'clock in the 5th game of the tournament. They still have a couple more days to kill before they get back onto the diamond. That's in the Sun Belt tournament. Citadel football announced today that they contracted to play 2 teams from the SEC and 2 from the ACC over the next 9 seasons, including each of the next 3 years. The Bulldogs have games contracted with Clemson, Alabama, Georgia Tech, and Ole Miss between 2017 and 2025. The Bulldogs will receive $300,000 from Clemson, $400 from Georgia Tech, and $500 from Alabama and Ole Miss as part of those agreements. The Bulldogs face the participants in each of the previous 2 national championship games over the next 2 seasons, going to Clemson this coming season and Alabama in 2018. So good luck with that, Citadel.
Well, here's the question. Does Citadel still run the option?
Of course.
I thought Nick Saban didn't play teams that run the option. He's changed his tune?
Apparently. Maybe he doesn't play FBS teams that run the option, just FCS teams.
Probably.
They run the option. Speaking of Alabama, first-year baseball coach Greg Goff was fired today. He apparently tried to reduce or revoke scholarships for up to 10 players during their exit interviews. That didn't go over well. That's also against the NCAA rules. And so they fired him. He signed a 5-year deal last summer at $450,000 a year, and went on to have one of the worst seasons in Alabama history, 1934-1, 524-1 in SEC play, fewest wins by the program since 1980, its worst SEC record since 1994. Yet somehow they managed to sweep Auburn late in the year. That's baseball. Try to explain it, K-Mac. Try to explain baseball.
It's a funny game.
Alabama has Auburn's number. Period.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so we're up to date on that. 800-956-7266 is our phone number. Email talkback@sportstalksc.com and on Twitter @SportsTalkSC. We should also mention the Colonial Athletic Tournament. And not a good day for the College of Charleston. They lose to Delaware 9-0. And I guess this is that single elimination? Is that the play-in portion? I'm not sure. But they lose 9-0 playing in Wilmington, North Carolina. Some final thoughts from Monty Lee. You know, it was a few weeks ago, nice come-from-behind win, and Monty made the comment that was picked up by people. It was a very nice off-the-cuff comment that they eat pressure like candy at Clemson. But since then, they've come on hard times, broken a few teeth on that candy, I think. And he was asked about that today, the fact that the Tigers have been struggling after that come-from-behind win and that comment about eating pressure like candy.
Yeah, and I have thought about that a lot. And, you know, when you asked me that question, if you recall, and again, I've tried to explain this to people who have brought that up. You know, you asked me a question about what did I tell the team in the 6th inning in the dugout against Charleston Southern, I believe was the game. And all I was doing is trying to be honest with you guys, as I always am. I try to be as honest and give the people who follow our program an insight look as to what we try to do and what we value as a program. And, you know, in that moment, that's what I told our team. You know, it wasn't an overall statement.
Right.
It was in a moment in time, we were down 5-1, and before the inning, just brought the guys together and just said, hey, just relax, keep playing. We've been in pressure situations before. And that was where that's where it came from. It didn't come from me making an overall statement that, you know, we eat pressure like candy. And obviously I've been criticized for that some ever since, and that's okay. But I was only trying to give an honest answer to a question about what I told our team in that moment.
Monty, do not apologize for making a great comment.
Yes.
I mean, seriously, guys, that's exactly what he was doing. He's trying to rally his team. He says, hey, guys, look, this is pressure. We eat pressure like candy.
Suppose you
get
don't
out
like
there
candy.
and get out there and play hard and get it done. How can you criticize? Who would criticize a coach for coming up with a great line like that to sell to his players?
No, it is a great line. I think where people this is what people want to do. After that, you make that comment and then you drop a bunch of games, people are going to point that comment out because something like that is, for lack of a better term, bulletin board material. People remember comments like that, and when you make a comment like that and you win a bunch of games, you get patted on you get a pat on the back. But when you lose, people go, why'd you say that? But I understand the context is important.
It was
in the dugout against Charleston Southern. But
it was like Dabo telling the football team that against
bring your own guts.
Bring your own guts. You know, and fortunately for him, two things happened. They won the game, and then he was able to be interviewed in a wild scene on the field, in the rain and the wind and the floods. And he was able to tell the interviewee, the reporterette from ESPN.
Reporter. There's no such thing as reporterette.
That I told my players to bring their own guts.
Yeah.
And of course, somebody was able to make it into a T-shirt.
But had they lost their next 5 games after he said that, people would have thrown that in his face and said, hey, Dabo, did you guys run out of guts? I guess they're getting their guts beat out of them now. They're spilling their guts.
I know exactly what coach eats pressure like candy. You ever Dawn Staley make about 20 trips up the score table and eat candy the whole game?
Yeah.
Okay, then. It's done.
Absolutely. All right, we'll be right back. Okay, rain has let up here in Hoover, and I think they're going to start taking the tarp off the field here in a little bit. It's drizzling. It's drizzling some, but not nearly as bad as it was. Things have kind of calmed down, and perhaps they can get the tarp off the field and get back to action here before too much longer. Gary Gilmore, who's had a lot of downtime on his hands, he'll join us at the bottom of the hour to talk about his baseball team, which has had quietly, at least around most of the state, another terrific season, and I think in position to be in the postseason. Baseball America does have Coastal Carolina in the Chapel Hill, North Carolina regional with Vanderbilt and Wilmington, and they have Coastal in as winning the Sun Belt Championship if they ever get around to playing it. So we'll see what happens there. But, yeah, you cannot forget Coastal. Of course, Winthrop, very good chance to win the Big South, or Presbyterian. Presbyterian, of course, we had both coaches on with us the other night. Elton Pollock's done a great job at PC and has that team in a position to win a tournament championship. Also going to have some comments for you coming up from USC basketball coach Frank Martin. He's in Sumter tonight for a Gamecock Club Spurs Up stop, and he is speaking there, and he talked to the media there. We'll bring you a little bit of that coming up for you a little bit later on, which reminds me to plug another time, because it's still out there, our poll question of the 2 weeks, of the fortnight. How about that word, Pro? Fortnight. Yeah.
Okay, I hadn't heard that since Wimbledon.
Yeah. Who is the state athlete of the year? And Aja Wilson has surged ahead in the balloting with over 35% of the votes. About 1,200 votes have been cast. Deshaun Watson next at 33.3%, and Sindarius Thornwell next at 31.5%. We'll leave this up through the holiday weekend. So if you haven't had a chance to vote, do so. Go to our website, SportsTalkSC.com, and get your vote in. Here's a couple of comments, too, to our poll question. Bobby writes, this poll will be BS. While I am a USC grad, there is no doubt that the honor should go to Deshaun Watson. Billy writes, I feel this is a no-brainer. Deshaun Watson, probably one of the best athletes ever in this state. Well, that's true. I mean, listen, the problem is you can't go wrong with any of the three. All three were great in their own individual way, in their own individual sport. Watson leading his team to a national championship, Wilson leading her team to a national championship, and Thornwell. The thing is, Thornwell was probably part of the most unthought of possibility of the three. I think we all knew Clemson was going to play for the national championship. I think we all knew the USC women would play for the national championship or be in the Final Four. Nobody thought the USC men would make it to the Final Four.
Well,
and Thornwell, as the SEC's Player of the Year, led his team to the promised land in basketball.
But then again, the argument could be made that Aja Wilson has played 2 seasons with what they have a system with Twin Towers, and right at the apex of going to the postseason, the last few games, they had to switch to a more center open offense with her not having Coates on the other side, and she adjusted on the fly, and they won a national championship. So that's a feather in her cap.
Absolutely. Yep. Absolutely. And I think that she'll probably be, I would think, the front runner for National Player of the Year going into next season, though I'm sure somebody at UConn will be there as well. But you'd have to consider Aja Wilson as a strong candidate to be National Player of the Year for the women next year. And I don't think the USC women will back up too much next season. They did lose a couple of, 3, outstanding players. But they've recruited well, and their guard play should be extremely well. And there'll be more room, as we saw in their run to the national championship. There'll be more room for Wilson to roam inside with Coates gone to get the ball more to her inside, and she's practically unstoppable in that situation. So I expect her to have another big year next year and that team to go a long, long way.
Well, anytime you can have your center back and your point guard back in Harris, and then have Cuevas Moore coming off the bench as your backup point, you got a lot to work with there.
Yeah, yeah. The RPI this week in baseball, after USC lost today, the Gamecocks were 35th in the RPI. Clemson remains at number 10 after their loss last night to Duke. I say remains. They dropped one spot, so they're number 10. And, of course, we have to check on old St. Pete. St. Peter's 299th with a record of 0-38. Can you imagine that, being a baseball team and you go 0-38?
That's tough.
That is not going to get you a lot of Coach of the Year honors or Player of the Year honors.
Hey, if you're going to do something, do it big.
Absolutely.
Don't do it halfway.
Last night, shifting gears here, last night's Celtics and the Cavaliers, 16-point lead. LeBron in foul trouble, 4 fouls in the first half. That's history. Never happened before. Thought the Celtics were in really good shape, but, boy, Kyrie Irving was crazy last night. But you can't let a guy just drive to the rim time and time and time again and not punish him. And the Celtics let that happen last night. And somebody's got to get in there and cut his legs out from under him, let him feel some hardwood.
Well, they don't allow that anymore. They probably would have ejected somebody. Yeah, but you can bump a guy a little bit, something like that. And when you say LeBron has 4 fouls, and then I'm going to make some people have to go back in their dictionaries, but since Phil and I are the 2 oldest people in this studio, I can remember when everybody used to say, well, Wilt had 5 fouls. They're getting ready to foul him out. I said, Wilt has never fouled out of the game, and they're not going to get that 6th foul. So I say, so he's like 007. He's got a license to kill.
Well, and there was a move. Did you watch the game closely?
Yes.
That move that LeBron made last night where he did that spin move, went one way. Double dribble.
Yeah, he did.
Double dribble. The right hand came up and touched the basketball, and both hands were on the basketball, and they allowed him to continue. Now, I will admit that the officials were really bad last night. They were doing makeup calls because they missed a foul on a shot that Crowder took where he was clearly hit and knocked down. No foul was called. And so next time down the floor, whoever it was, I think it was Horford, drove to the rim. Nobody touched him, and they called a foul on Cleveland. I mean, listen, I want my team to win, but I want it to be fair and square. That's just terrible officiating. Makeup calls, there's no place for makeup calls. Either you see it or you don't, but don't make something up just to even it out.
I still say the big story out of this is what I call it's not a tough let me put it this way. I think it is a tough conundrum because your best offensive player arguably, not arguably, but hands down was Isaiah Thomas. However, he's also your worst defensive player at no fault of his own. He's just very diminutive. The key point is, for most of the game when the Celtics had the lead, Corn, you could tell that team, when they're hitting shots, are such light years defensively, much better when they don't have to hide Isaiah on the defensive end of the floor. So the Celtics have some decisions to make when you got a guy right at the cusp of his career, 28 years old, but is a defensive liability, and you got the number 1 pick. What do you do?
Yeah, but he's such a great offensive player,
Yes.
too. They'll figure something out. By the way, K-Mac, we'll let you back into the NBA playoff discussion in about 2019.
Thanks. I look forward to that day.
So just sit back, relax, think about the past, because you do enjoy thinking about the glorious Laker past while it stinks
won a title
in
much
the present.
more recently than the Celtics. That's all I'll say.
That's about to change,
Beat
however,
the
my
Celtics
friend.
in that last title, as a matter of fact.
That's about to change.
Yeah, 3-1. It's about to change.
We'll be back. Gary Gilmore going to dial him up. It's raining here again in Hoover. Be back in a moment.
like big guards. I don't think that's a secret. And he's someone that he's an unbelievable competitor. He's a great character guy.
We are back at Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. We continue with our mayhem coverage of college baseball as we do here every year on Sports Talk, SEC, ACC tournaments, Big South, Southern Conference tournament, and the Sun Belt tournament. Part of our menu now with Coastal Carolina, the regular season champ, number 1 seed, looking to earn another spot in the NCAA tournaments. And we welcome back to Sports Talk. Gosh, it's been a while since we last talked to him, Coastal Carolina coach Gary Gilmore, who's got time on his hands apparently in Statesboro, Georgia. Coach, how are you?
I'm doing good. Been here watching it pour down rain.
Is it ever going to end?
I tell you what, it's questionable. I'll be honest with you. It's unbelievable. We have sat here for 3 straight days, and it has just dumped for 3 days.
So what have you done to try to keep your team sharp?
Well, I mean, we've hitting some cages and doing some stuff. We're trying to find a field to go to tomorrow. We don't play again tomorrow, so they've changed the format. We're in a single elimination tournament starting Friday, so we're hopefully get out on the field and take some real batting practice, and real ground balls, and be kind of like it was most of last year in the playoffs. It's get her done and go home.
Well, you're used to that. You're used to dealing with that kind of situation, and I'm sure the veterans on your team will step up and take the task on head on. And what about this season? 37 wins, 22 wins in your new league. You win the regular season title. You're the number 1 seed. Is this even a better team than last year?
Oh no. I mean, it's people don't realize. I mean, we got termed a lot of wonderful adjectives or whatever to describe who we were last year, but that was a very talented team that we had. I mean, we've got some of those pieces back, but we missed that 2, 3, 4, 5 group of hitters is about darn near all at one time to replace almost. We're down. I have one extra catcher, and that's it. We don't have a single other reserve. I've got pitchers hitting. We just did the injury thing has absolutely crushed us. We're down a couple of arms. It's I don't know, man. It's just kids have rallied to around themselves and know that they gotta everybody's gotta have each other's back, and heck, when we realized there was no one else to go to on the bench, we actually started playing better.
Well, I mean, you guys were resourceful last year because you had injuries in postseason play and had to shuffle guys around, and guys came through. And kind of the case again this year, huh? Some guys are starting to come through.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, they played. Teams played very well the last. About the last month, we played very well and have pitched exceptionally well. Done a lot of little things that you need to be able to do, and had some couple of guys come in, that have gotten a chance to play every day that have actually stepped up and been every bit as good or better than what we had out there anyway. So that doesn't happen very often.
What's your starting rotation? 4 guys with 10 or more starts: Cunningham, Hopek, Beckwith, Billis, all guys that pitched in big games for you last year.
Oh yeah. No, those guys have done a really good job. Andrew got off to a little slow start in the beginning, but he's pitched very much like he did at the end of last year. The last 3 or 4 outings, Cunningham has been incredible all year long. Hopek has been very steady for us. Billis has had his moments. He's been insanely good and not so good at times. But when he's really good, he's a game changer.
You, from a closer standpoint, you've got 3 guys with several saves. Holmes, of course, was the guy that everybody talked about last year. Will Latcham, Austin Kitchen. Who's the guy that you're going to in the clutch this year? Is it any of those 3 or one guy in particular?
Well, it's been Latcham was out for about 5 weeks, and that was a time in the period where we really struggled, and now we got him back, and he's been lights out for about a month. And Kitchen has kind of been on and off. He's been really good here lately, and we lost Bobby Holmes for the year. So the other day, so we're oh yeah, no man, it's like I said, it's never ending. So
what
we just
what happened to Bobby?
He has a very small tear in his Tommy John ligament, and there's some issues with where it inserts into the bone. So we've had him with Dr. Andrews a couple of times, and it's just one of those things we tried to rehab and get him through the year, and without further injury or whatever. And it's just to a point where the discomfort for him, he's going to have to make up his mind which avenue he goes, whether it's get a plasma injection and hope that heals it, come back next year and pitch, and or go get a full-blown Tommy John and miss next year and come back as a fifth-year senior. I hate it for him, man. It's one of the incredible ingredients we had to our team last year. It's a guy that's waited all his life to be a pretty good draft. To see him have to go through that, I hate it for him.
Absolutely. Let me ask you now, as the season kind of winds down here, what was more fun, going through a season where you're striving and trying to win a championship, or going through a season where you are the champion and everybody looks at you that way and you're defending something?
Oh, chasing everybody was a lot better than being chased. I can promise you that. We've gotten everybody's best right hook and uppercut that they could possibly give us everywhere. We've had teams dogpile on us. I mean, that part. I knew we'd get some of that. I didn't realize the degree to which we would get it, and especially certain guys when Cunningham and Beckwith would start because of all they did. They everything to face them gave basically exponentially better effort than they normally get.
Sure. Do you feel at this point you're safely in the NCAA tournament?
I don't feel that way. I mean, I hope so. I mean, our league is the 9th best league in the country in the power ratings, and I mean, it took us all year, but we won the league, and you never know. I mean, we don't have a great resume outside the league this year, and a lot of it is not just us not winning all the midweek games. It's just some of the teams that in the past have been RPI boosters for us because of they're in our region and have been fantastic every year in Wilmington and College of Charleston. We play them 6 times, and they're both having a hiccup year, and it happens. It's never happened where between the 3 of us, we've never had a year where 2 of us fought it. Every now and then one of us will fight it, but this year both of them have fought it a little bit. We're not getting the boost we normally get from playing them and competing against them.
Well, listen, good luck to you when you finally get back to playing baseball in your tournament, and if things go well, we'll hear your name called out on Monday, and we will talk to you next week going into the regional.
Well, I hope so. I hope we get to talk next week. That'll be good.
Thank you, Coach, as always. We appreciate it.
All right, Phil. Thank you, sir. Take care. Bye.
You too. Thank you. Gary Gilmore stepping out from a team dinner to join us, our first chance to talk to him all year. Always good to talk to him. And, he makes some interesting points. I didn't know that Bobby Holmes had gone down for the season. That's certainly a blow, but they do have a couple of other guys in their bullpen who can get it done from a closer standpoint in Latcham and Austin Kitchen. And, they're starting 4, Cunningham, Hopek, Beckwith, and when Billis is right, that's pretty tough. So wouldn't be surprised if their pitching carries them a long way once again and into a postseason play. I mean, as long as they don't go, well, it's single elimination now in their league, but, if they win a couple more games in their tournament, I see no way that they don't make the NCAA field next week. We'll be back in a moment. Some Frank Martin comments coming your way. Okay, still in a rain delay here in Hoover. It's still raining, just lightly, but it's still raining. Tarp is still on the field, 5-1 LSU, leading Missouri. It's been a lengthy to this point, and you heard, and also a lightning delay too. It's 6 o'clock actually. Well, 7 o'clock, 48 minutes, 40. Technically, we're in a 49-minute rain and lightning delay here in Hoover. And you heard Gary Gilmore talking about Statesboro, Georgia, where they are. And they've been sitting on their hands there all week, waiting to get going again. The Gamecocks play the second game tomorrow. Once they get this game going again, there's one more game tonight, Auburn and Florida. And then tomorrow morning, we're going to have Mississippi State and Arkansas. That will technically be a first-round double elimination game, followed by the elimination game between South Carolina and the loser of this one. And then should the Gamecocks win, they would go to the quarterfinals on Friday, I do believe. I think that's right. So I'm not going to get too far ahead of ourselves because everything's messed up because of the rain and things being jumbled about. But there is a little bit of a backup here at the SEC tournament as well. Now, USC basketball coach Frank Martin was in Sumter tonight to speak to a Gamecock Club tour stop. I guess that's part of the Spurs Up thing, even though Muschamp's not there. And he was met by the media. And this audio coming from video up on the bigspur.com. Give them credit for being there and doing their thing. And here is Frank Martin, who was asked about some of the incoming players, some of the new guys like Jason Cudd, the 7-footer, and also the big shooting guard, 6'7", Justin Minaya. His thoughts on those guys.
I like big guards. I don't think that's a secret. And he's someone that he's an unbelievable competitor. He's a great character guy. Can really shoot. I'm excited. I think he's got the makings of the, one of those guys like we've had in our program here that just every year gets better and he eventually becomes an unbelievable basketball player.
With another one of the freshmen, Frank, Jason Cudd, what do you see him able to do and come in and contribute right away? Is he maybe another guy that might need another year getting bigger, stronger before he make an impact, or could he play right away next year?
I don't recruit guys with the intention of them not playing. That's all on him. What do I see? I see a guy that's 270 pounds that can run, got great footwork, got very good hands, does not run away from contact. I see somebody that's got a chance to be a real good player. When I recruit big guys, I recruit them thinking of who they can be when they're 22 years of age. And my vision is that when Jason is 22, 23 years of age, he's an unbelievably good basketball player. And that's why I get excited about guys like him. And we use our big guys. Our big guys are not run around, set ball screens, and let the guard shoot every ball. It's we utilize our bigs, so it's a system fit too.
Going back to Minaya, he obviously comes from a family with some professional experience, given his dad's career. Did you see that in his maturity and in himself, that he comes from a family like that?
Yeah, no doubt. He's got a demeanor and approach. You can tell he's been around professional athletes. You can tell that his dad evaluates players for a living and not just professional players. Kids that are 15, 16, 17 years old, and he has to project who's going to be good based on talent, character, all the intangibles that go into the evaluation process. And you can tell Justin has been, privy to those kind of conversations. And very, very mature young man, great family. Like I said, he's prepared to come into college and work to get better, which is what it's about. It's he's already a real good player, but he's excited about getting better, and that's what we always strive for.
All right, there you go. Comments from Frank Martin over in Sumter tonight, courtesy of the Big Spur. And, of course, disappointing news for Martin today. Mark Allstork deciding to go with his former assistant coach and go to Illinois and play for Brad Underwood. He would have been a perfect replacement for Sindarius Thornwell. Similar size, similar skills, very confident young man, leadership qualities, et cetera, et cetera. So that looks to be a significant miss there. The Gamecocks still sitting now on 13 scholarship players now for next year. C.J. Bryce is still out there, a transfer who visited USC. NC State is heavily involved. I think Gonzaga remains involved as well. So that still is a possibility at this point. All right, I've been trying to sort out the SEC bracket.
Oh.
So the Gamecocks play tomorrow against the loser of this Missouri-LSU game. By the way, the tarp is coming off the field. They got the squeegees out there. They're trying to get the water out of the outfield where it is puddled up some. This field, though, appears to drain very, very well. And so they'll get this thing back in shape to resume play here shortly with LSU leading 5-1. So let's presume here that holds up. And Missouri will face South Carolina tomorrow in an elimination game. It'll be the second game of the day. If South Carolina wins, then they will play, at least based on the schedule. Now, things could get shifted because of the weather, but they would be scheduled to play on Friday at 4 o'clock Eastern time. And they would play the loser from Game 11, and the loser from Game 11 will come from the game between the winner of Game 5 and the winner of Game 6. And Game 5 is the Kentucky won that game, so Kentucky goes into that slot. And Game 6 is this one, so Kentucky LSU winner. Loser of that game would play if South Carolina wins tomorrow. The loser of that Kentucky LSU game would play South Carolina in the elimination game on Friday. And that's as far as I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
I do that okay, K-Mac? Did that meet your standards?
Absolutely. I feel
Did I get the bunt down? Did I move the runner ahead? Did I pick up the hard-hit ground ball and turn the double play to satisfy everybody?
Actually, you did get the bunt down. The pitcher fielded and forced the guy out at third, but you made it to first safely, so you're still alive.
But I still failed in trying to advance the runner.
Well,
So
much better than the girls softball in high school brackets that you try to go through.
Yeah, I kind of left those alone this year. They got to be too confusing. Okay, let's see what else. Braves won last night, a game that didn't end until, I should say, they won this morning. Game ended about after 1 o'clock in the morning. They're only like a game under 500, right? Aren't they knocking on the door to 500?
No, about 3 or 4 under 500.
Okay.
But they're 6.5 back of the Nationals.
Yeah.
Because of the Mets plummeting.
Okay, let's see, K-Mac, I'm looking at some Twitter comments here. Always dangerous.
Oh, boy.
Your friend, 3 Dingo, has there ever been a baseball coach that does not cry in poor mouth? Phil, everyone has catastrophic injuries. Boo, hoo, hoo. You know, the problem with fans today is they have no heart. Fans today have no heart. I mean, seriously. I think in years past, they'd give you a break. They would be understanding about injuries. Not today.
Nope.
You ever notice that some people are very nice and they're really sedate type people until they get behind the wheel of a car and they go nuts? Well, some people go nuts when you put them in front of a keyboard and a laptop.
Yes. Yeah. The ability to share your opinion. Everybody's always had opinions. They haven't always had the ability to share it out there for
and
people
hide
who
at
want to read
the
it.
same time because you can't see their face
Or their names.
Yes.
They make up names. You don't even know who's doing it. And that will do it for us. Thank you for being with us from here in Hoover and Columbia. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow.